It is time to call this October 15th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for the San Felipe de Oro CISD. Madam Secretary, would you call roll?
Mr. Contreras?
Present.
Ms. Guanajuato Webb?
Present.
Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Mr. Overfelt? Mrs. Sanders?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Present.
And myself. Sir, we have a quorum.
Let the record show that we do have a quorum and that this meeting was duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At this time, we'll have opening ceremonies, which will stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening and welcome. I thank you for being here, even though the weather is not very nice outside. I do welcome plenty of visitors, and I hope you enjoyed the program that we have prior to the start of the meeting. These are our own children, our own people that attend our school, so we're very proud of that. First item that we have is recognitions. Item 4A on the agenda. Fine Arts Recognition, Ricardo Rios.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. We're going to be having, once again, as you mentioned, this wonderful group of young ladies that are part of the Del Rio High School Choir under the direction of Mr. Josue Gonzalez. They're going to be bringing another song for us. And his girls program has been doing really well for many years now. And it's a great opportunity for us to be able to get to feature them at the opening of this board meeting. And then later on, we'll also have from the art department, we'll be having Mr. Escobar as well. So let me turn it over to Mr. Gonzalez and the Del Rio High School Choir.
It rhythmic smile.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, and thank you once again for giving us this opportunity to be able to feature our fine arts programs at the start of the board meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank all the students, Mr. Gonzalez, for doing a tremendous job. He takes his job very serious, as do our students in performing, and so they get that recognition for being the best. Next item that we have on our agenda is item 4B, recognition of Campus Teacher of the Month for,
I apologize, sir. We have promised the Good Neighbor Council that we
Oh.
will.
okay, I don't have this on this agenda. Okay. We have a correction. We are going to go to item 4C first, International Good Neighbor Council recognition of Fiesta de Amistad Art Contest winner, Irimas Dora Alcala and Dr. Mary Ramirez.
Okay. Good evening, honorable school board members and Superintendent Dr. Rios. My name is Chris Escobar. I'm the art teacher here at Del Rio High School. I teach art levels 1 through 4. This summer we had the International Good Neighborhood Council approach us. Dr. Perez agreed, and we brought the International Good Neighborhood Council to assist us with a poster contest, and likewise we did as well. We had 9 participants. Out of the 9, we had 3 that were chosen as winners. Tonight we are going to present that to you. Third place, we have Eva E. Lopez with a prize winning of $100. And this is Ella. Second place, he was not able to make it, but we have Angel Alejandro Victorino with a prize winning of $200. And then we have first place goes to Kimberly Rodriguez, and she's here present. And she won $300. In case you didn't notice, they're using the T-shirts. They're wearing the T-shirts for the for the parade. So that's a great honor. And thank you for including the Del Rio High School Arts Department, the Fine Arts. Thank you for your support. And hopefully next year we can do it again.
Very nice. Nice shirts.
Thank you so much for inviting us to be here. It is quite an honor for us to be able to highlight our students and their art. The winner, the first place winner, not only is it the art, it's also the wonderful culture, and it shows our ability to have a wonderful friendship with our border community. So our theme for Fiesta de Amistad 2018, we're celebrating 58 years of Amistad, is friendship within our border. She said it, amistad entre las fronteras del río y Ciudad Acuña. So these wonderful t-shirts will be sold throughout the month during Fiesta de Amistad. I hope each and every one of you buys one. They're very inexpensive, only $15, and most of the funds will be going to a scholarship fund that we are establishing as we speak. Will go to the students in the art department of the Del Rio High School. So I want to thank my sister, Dr. Maria Ramirez, for chairing this wonderful event. We couldn't have done it without her. And also Mr. Escobar. Chris, he is so talented, and he bent backwards to help us, and I'm sure Dr. Ramirez has a word or two to say. But those students are so talented. We are exhibiting their art on Thursday for the incoming reception. We're having a convention of International Good Neighbor. A lot of people throughout Mexico will be here to celebrate Fiesta, and we're going to display not only the 3 winning art that we have, but also all 9 participants. So we've got easels. It's going to be very beautiful at the reception and then also at the mayor's reception. And Dr. Mary, you did an awesome job, and Mr. Escobar, mil gracias.
I also want to thank the board, Dr. Rios, Dr. Perez, and especially Mr. Escobar, because we were able to come in and hopefully make a little difference on some of our art students who their work may not always be recognized. But let me tell you, when you see the 9 entries, at least 3 or 4 of them could have easily won first place. Very, very nice work. And again, thank you. Thank you, board members, for all your work, and Dr. Rios for leading our district and making it be what it is today. This is beautiful. This building looks beautiful. I had not walked into this building since before it was what Del Rio High School. But I am very, very proud of our district and proud of the work that our members, our board, and our administration, and especially our teachers have done in this district. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks again to the International Good Neighbor Council and for all the participants, and also Mr. Escobar again. I hope we can see all the 9 entries. And Ms. Gonzalez?
Where can we buy the shirts?
You can buy them from me. We'll be selling them at the parade route. We'll be selling them at the Ramada. We'll be selling them also at all the events that we have throughout Fiesta. We'll have them at the Greenwood Park for the arts and crafts, but also for me and any member of our team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Okay, now we go back to item B, 4B, recognition of the campus, Teacher of the Month for September 2018, Aide Garcia.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Our district continues to recognize our most dedicated and talented teachers, and tonight our principals will have an opportunity to announce the September 2018 Teacher of the Month and let us know what sets these teachers apart. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to the principals.
Thank you, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Frenchie McCrae is known throughout the community as a motivational coach to all students at Del Rio High School. This year, Coach McCrae took the lead on a new school initiative, Del Rio Cares. Coach McCrae helped to spearhead this new program and is one of the program's biggest supporters. With this program, students are learning to really care for each other. Coach McCrae's work with at-risk students is truly phenomenal. His love for students at Del Rio High School makes him September Teacher of the Month.
Good evening, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Blended Academy's Teacher of the Month is Alex Menchaca. If I could describe Alex in one word, it would be amazing. He is a role model. He builds genuine relationships with all students and has created such a safe, positive classroom environment for teaching and learning. When you walk into his classroom, you'll see students engaged, hands-on activities, collaborative group work, constant monitoring and providing feedback, and of course, lots and lots of praise. Mr. Menchaca consistently goes above and beyond in everything he does, always putting his students first. He gets to work early, leaves late, and what's more impressive is that he often gives up his lunch for students to come and get that extra help. And that's no wonder and no surprise that his students have such a high passing rate on the Algebra 1 EOC. Thank you, Mr. Menchaca. It is truly an honor to have you on Team Blended.
Good evening. I am very proud tonight to bring you Early College High School's Teacher of the Month, Mr. Tani Canchola. Mr. Canchola is an amazing asset to ECHS. He is patient, kind, and a strong role model for all students. This summer, Mr. Canchola attended an advanced placement workshop sponsored by College Board to better service students with lessons that are rigorous and challenging. Every summer, he enjoys traveling all over the world and brings back fascinating stories for the students that helps them better understand and connect with the content being taught in U.S. history. World history, sorry, Mr. Canchola. Mr. Canchola is also the head soccer coach for our community's high schools. Thanks for always going above and beyond in and out of the classroom. Congratulations.
Good evening, Dr. Rios, President Mesa, members of the board. With me this evening is Sarah Fernandez. Sarah is a model teacher who works tirelessly to make her lessons exciting and engaging. This year, she wanted to try something different, so she implemented flexible seating in her classroom. Her classroom looks more like a comfortable living room instead of a typical classroom. By giving students options of different types of seating arrangements, she creates a positive culture where students are willing and eager to face the rigors of her class. Her constant focus on engagement and rigor leads to her students consistently performing among the best in their class. Mrs. Fernandez is also the freshman class sponsor and works hard to create a sense of class pride and loyalty among the freshman students. Del Rio Freshman is truly blessed to have Mrs. Fernandez as part of our teaching community. Congratulations, ma'am.
Good evening, Board President, Superintendent, and Board members. It is with great pleasure I introduce to you the September Teacher of the Month for 7th grade at Del Rio Middle School. Ms. Carla Talamantes. Ms. Talamantes has been teaching ELA at Del Rio Middle School for 14 years. Currently, she is department head, a UIL sponsor, and an agent of change leader. Ms. Talamantes is able to reach out to both students and teachers and offer support as needed. The dedication given to UIL has definitely helped Del Rio Middle School shine in area meets. Her caring personality and her teaching experiences are the perfect combination needed for student success. She spreads her love throughout Del Rio Middle School by overseeing a Del Rio Cares Action Team. The team recognizes the staff's daily efforts in making Del Rio Middle School shine. Mrs. Talamantes, continue to hold your students to high expectations, continue to spread your love, and continue to shine at Del Rio Middle School. Congratulations.
A heartfelt congratulations to Mrs. Alma Rojas, our San Felipe Memorial Middle School Teacher of the Month. She is one of our math teachers that helped us earn a math distinction. Her engaging lessons are carefully planned out with each student's needs in mind. Students feel comfortable and supported when asking for assistance or explaining the activity to their classmates. She is also helping her coworkers become healthier by offering Zumba twice a week at no cost. Thank you, Mrs. Rojas, for all you do for San Felipe Memorial Middle School. We are extremely blessed to have you part of our team.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. It is an honor for me to present our September Cardwell Teacher of the Month, Ms. Alba Nieto. Ms. Nieto is in her 13th year teaching bilingual students and also serves as a team leader. She is also a talented musician and often teaches lessons playing her guitar and singing with her students. Her outstanding qualities include her ability to remain calm under pressure, her positive attitude, and her passion to teaching and learning. Congratulations, Ms. Nieto. We love you.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. It is with great honor to present to you Ms. Naisman. When we think of all well-rounded teacher, we think of Ms. Naisman. She is enthusiastic, inspiring, and an outside-of-the-box teacher who inspires her students daily. She is a student council sponsor as well and our UIL dictionary coach. Education is important, but character is just as important to her, which is why last month, along with the Lighthouse team members, she prepared a Leader in Me luncheon for 60 parents. She trained them on how to extend the 7 habits into their home environments to make a larger impact in their lives in our community. We are truly blessed to have Ms. Naisman on our team as she is leading, learning, and leaving a legacy every day at Buena Vista. Thank you very much, Ms. Naisman.
Good evening. We're happy to announce Ms. Deborah Sanders as the Teacher of the Month for September. As a first grade leader, Ms. Sanders has been working very hard to welcome 3 new team members to her grade level. She keeps open and constant communication so everyone is on the same page, seeks feedback and direction to meet the goals that we set. In continuing her growth, she participated in a book study on guided math with other colleagues. We also need to mention that Ms. Sanders led and collaborated with other teachers to plan a literacy night for our Calderon families. Ms. Sanders is always seeking ways to help DFC excel, and she represents our DFC Coyote pride. Congratulations.
Good evening, Dr. Rios, Mr. Mesa, and members of the board. Patient, optimistic, and caring. These are the words used by Mrs. Dominguez's peers when describing her. She is the first grade cluster leader and runs her planning protocol meetings like PLC meetings. Her team can be seen presenting lessons and sharing ideas to increase student success. Mrs. Dominguez has set up a resource library just for her first grade teachers. She truly believes that she can make a difference in the lives of others. Congratulations, Mrs. Dominguez. You are LGE Excellence.
Okay, good evening, President Mesa, board members, and Dr. Rios. Our Teacher of the Month for Garfield Elementary is Mrs. Isa Dueñez. Mrs. Dueñez teaches 4th grade and has been an educator for 20 years, 8 of those years at Garfield Elementary. Mrs. Dueñez is our 4th grade cluster leader and is a perfect example of what an educator and a leader should be. She advocates for both her teachers and students. She is always willing to collaborate with others and assist when needed. We are extremely fortunate to have her. Thank you, Mrs. Dueñez, for all you do for our students.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Rios. It is with great pleasure that I present to you Lamar Elementary's Teacher of the Year for September, Ms. Roxana Yanez. She has proven a tremendous asset to Lamar through her expertise in curriculum, classroom instruction, and beyond. She is always willing to lend a helping hand, though any spotlight for her is not necessary, but deserving. We thank her for all the hard work. Ms. Yanez is Lamar Pride. Congratulations.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and board members. Our Teacher of the Month for Laughlin Elementary is Mrs. Andrea Reed. Andrea Reed has been teaching for 24 years and started this her 24th year in the inaugural year of Laughlin Elementary. She has decided that not only will she be our music and art teacher, but she will also be our PE teacher in helping our students, especially our pre-K 4 students, excel in music, art, and physical fun activities. Mrs. Reed has decided to help supervise all the other grades as well in physical education. She has been helping the students with reading by getting them involved in International Dot Day, and most recently helping our newly formed PTO with their Student Design School logo contest by being available to the students for help during school, before school, and after school. Mrs. Reed has taken on forming our very first choir and continuing as our sponsor for UIL Music Memory. She is ready and willing to help any teacher who needs it, using her 24 years of experience in doing so. Mrs. Reed has perfect attendance and is a perfect fit at Laughlin Elementary. Thank you, Mrs. Reed, for helping our Falcons soar.
Good evening. North Heights Elementary is proud to present Mrs. Jennifer Jost as our September Teacher of the Month. Mrs. Jost is a hardworking and caring teacher who always puts others before herself. This year, she has focused her energy on making a lasting impact on students as writers. While she has set goals for each of her students, she has also taken on the duties of team leader, which helps encourage and provide supports for ongoing learning opportunities for her team. We are so proud to call her a chief. Thank you for leading learning.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Every child deserves a teacher who loves and respects them. Every child deserves a teacher who works hard to create an energetic and unique classroom environment. Every child deserves a teacher who is dedicated, compassionate, and excited to teach them to be lifelong lovers of learning. Mrs. San Miguel's third grade students at Ruben Chavira Elementary have that teacher. She is a positive force in every student's life, and RCE is truly a better place because of her cheerfulness and optimism. Congratulations, Mrs. San Miguel, and thank you.
Patsy.
Yes, sir.
I want to say congratulations again to all the teachers and also for all their fans for being here, the co-workers. There's one thing we do know, that we have great teachers in our district. Congratulations to all of them. We lost about 75% of our audience.
Come back.
The heat. Body heat.
Okay, we're going to continue with our agenda. We're down to item 8A, reports. First thing we have is Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary, Campus Plan of Action, Cheryl Pond, and Ida Gomez.
Yes. Okay. I'm just gonna take this out. Good evening, Dr. Rios, Board President Mesa, and members of the school board. I am Cheryl Pond, principal at Lonnie Green Elementary. Through tonight's presentation, we're going to be discussing the following areas: our data, our strengths, our areas of focus, and our plan of action. So here is our third grade data. It compares 2017 with 2018. Third grade math scores declined overall, 9 percentage points in approaches, 8 percentage points in meets, and 1 percentage points in masters. Third grade reading scores also declined, 6 percentage points in approaches, 1 percentage point in meets, and 3 percentage points in masters. Over our fourth grade results, there were no increases from 2017 to 2018 in either approaches, meets, or masters, except for a 2 percentage point gain in reading at the approaches level. However, there was a growth in the student cohort scores from third to fourth grade. Students entered fourth grade at 70% and ended at 76 in math, and in reading, they grew from 62% to 69%. Fifth grade maintained the 89% at approaches grade level in 2017 in math, and saw an increase from 2017 to 2018 in science from 84% to 86% at the approaches level. These are our current demographics as of the 10th of October. We are a bilingual academy, so you see a large number of LEP students. These students range anywhere from beginning to advanced high in their English language proficiency. Our overall rating from the Texas Education Agency was a 69. We did meet all of the standards. So let's talk a little bit about our strengths. We saw an increase in scores in our fourth grade group last year from their third grade year. The cohorts of students entered fourth grade at 62 in reading and left at 71. And then in math, that was in reading and then in math, respectively. This year we have implemented a Panther partner program. As we focus on interventions at the student level, we identified that our third grade beginner and intermediate students were some students who needed some additional support outside of their classroom time. Students in 2 of our third grade classes, our beginners and intermediates, have been paired up with an adult on campus to serve as a mentor and an encourager. The mentors will meet with their students at least once a week to encourage attendance or be a reading partner or offer encouragement. The purpose of this program is to let students know that someone besides their teacher is invested in their success. As of today, we identified a few fourth graders that we will also be adding to the program. Our areas of focus are pretty simple: writing, math, and reading. While our focus seems to be narrow, we are really looking at some large components to help bring these areas up. We're looking at a focus on guided instruction, increased checks for understanding, and understanding the depth and complexity of the TEKS. Specifically, what do tested TEKS in 4th and 5th grade math and writing look like in kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade? It is only through understanding how these components work to improve instruction, therefore increasing student scores. Lonnie Green, as a campus, is committed to increasing our overall score of 69 to no less than a 79 next year. These are our writing scores kind of in an overview. This chart is a quick look at our writing data. The first column is the tested standard. The colored squares represent the question number and the number of students out of 136 students tested last year that got the correct answer. The final column is a summarization of the student expectation. The red colored squares represent scores or percentages below 70. The orange colored, they kind of look brown on the screen, represent percentages between 70 and 79. The yellow colored squares represent scores or percentages between 80 and 100. This is our item analysis report that we pull from DMAC. Teachers often utilize this item analysis report to analyze instruction. It shows us which standards were tested, how many questions, and how our students responded, allowing us to analyze to see if they truly knew the content, if they guessed, or if we need to go back and look at what some of the distractors were to focus our instruction. We identified 3 questions that were missed most as a campus, and then which questions were missed most at the district level. We did this on our RTI Data Day a couple of weeks ago. In the next few slides, you'll see that we scored very low on questions 5, 8, and 9 as a campus. So here is the comparison between Lonnie Green and the school district. We actually scored low in both groups. The question is below. Lonnie Green performed at 24%, while the district was at 31% overall for this particular question. When we analyzed the question together as a team, we noticed that there is a lot of skills that students need to know to answer this question. The question, I don't know if you can read it from there, says, Andrew would like to provide a better sentence to introduce the ideas in the 5th paragraph, sentences 27 through 31. Which of these could replace sentence 27 and provide a more effective topic sentence for this paragraph? If you think about all of the answer choices, they sound very similar, but students are supposed to narrow down the answer choices to figure out which one is most effective. Our next question we see is question 5, and this is asking students to identify a sentence that would help effectively state the central idea of the paper as a whole. Lawn and Green students performed at 37%, which is just 2 percentage points over how we performed on this question as a district. We recently ended the first 6 weeks, so we took that same chart and correlated it to our first summative. As you can see, our first question on TEAC 4.15C was one that we scored low on at the district level on STAR. Again, we still have quite a bit of work to do. This tends to be a very complex task in recognizing different sentence types. Today during our writing meeting, teachers broke down this question to determine what kind of strategies would best address this type of question. For example, having students note the main idea of the passage and paragraph. Teachers also committed to focusing on testing vocabulary, such as main idea, topic sentence, and central idea, being very similar. So our focus on writing instruction will include weekly progress monitor focused on revising and editing. Guided instruction focused on revising and editing within student compositions, and a restructured writing instructional block. During our RTI Data Day, we reviewed STAR data, which you have seen on the previous slides, to determine which student expectations require the most focus. Teachers who work with our LEP students will continue to receive training to implement Foursquare writing. Our writing initiative will add a focus of reviewing the PLDs through the school year once a 6 weeks. Our writing block will include 30 minutes of guided writing, focusing on editing and revising, 30 minutes of composition writing, 10 minutes of skill focus, including progress monitor, and 20 minutes of direct skills instruction, focusing on revising and editing. Teachers will progress monitor or assess target skills within the week and track student data to determine what concepts need to be retaught or spiraled into direct instruction. So our math, reading, and writing data talks all focused on this report, our item analysis, where we looked at exactly what standard was tested and how our students performed. This is just a sample of what they look like in math and reading. So this year, our teachers are tasked with creating an SLO, or a student learning objective. Simply stated, it's a growth measure to where students will be within a particular skill set by the end of the year. This year, second grade identified their SLO as students being able to solve 1- and 2-step addition or subtraction problems of whole numbers to 1,000, including regrouping. As pictured on this slide, this particular concept was tested 3 times on the spring 2018 STAR test. Third graders performed at a 56% overall. While we need to focus on improving scores this year, we can also make preparations for next year within this year's second graders. Lawn and Green teachers truly believe that improving our scores is a team effort. So we're trying to address this particular skill before it becomes a tested skill in third grade. Our focus is on math instruction. We will be implementing and utilizing the new math curriculum. We've restructured our math block to be 90 minutes. Our planning time now focuses on planning for checks for instruction or understanding by planning questions before the lesson is even taught to recognize areas of misconception before the instruction. We are doing vertical planning between 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades in the area of math. We will begin TEAC studies K through 2nd grade. In an effort to prepare our primary students for upper level math curriculum, teachers will be engaging in a study of low performing student expectations to ensure that they are teaching specific skills required by the TEAC. For example, multiplication is tested in 4th grade. The foundation begins in 1st grade with counting by 5s and 10s to recognize groups of up to 120. This is significant because it's more than just skip counting. The key is to recognize groups, which is the foundation of multiplication and division. The number 120 is significant because that is the basic fact, 10 times 12, all which are skills that students need to know by 3rd and 4th grade. And then the 2nd grade has committed to 3 benchmarks 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. We've already taken our beginning of the year benchmark and analyzed the data on our RTI day. And that's where they looked at their data and came up with their student learning objective. This is a sample of our goal setting chart. Teachers received this on their RTI day, and we looked at 4th and 5th grade students specifically because they do have that growth measure. Teachers charted where their students fell on the spring 2018 test, and then you'll see the grade out blocks. That's where they decided what interventions were going to be necessary to move them to the next category so that we can see some categorical growth by the end of the year. We did the same chart with our K1 and 2 students using their TPRI data to ensure that our students are receiving the appropriate reading instruction based on their needs. K1 and 2 teachers had to set similar goals on how they bring their kids up to grade level by the end of the school year. And that takes us into our focus on reading instruction, which again, we are planning for small group instruction, guided reading. We're increasing our checks for understanding, and we're monitoring fluency and comprehension through progress monitoring, again in K through 2, so that we make sure that all of our students are on grade level when they leave their primary grade level. And then reading interventions through Power Hour. Are there any questions?
We'll open up for questions from board members. Yes, Mrs. Webb.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, how are you?
First of all, thank you for the presentation. I applaud you on some of the things that you're already putting into place as far as your vertical alignment with 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But you also keep in mind that your K through 2nd can also be working with your vertical alignment because everything starts from the bottom. We can't expect our 3rd grade teachers to start with 3rd grade objectives and them to be ready.
Yes, ma'am.
And the approaches too. When I looked at and I don't have a copy of your PowerPoint, so I can't specifically indicate the percentages. But when we have approaches and we have 69% of our students at approaches, we're still missing the other percent that didn't even make it to that level. Can you tell me or tell us more or less what we're doing with those students that are behind?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. That's what we had our goal planning sheet. So when teachers had to go and look at students who did not make the appropriate gains, they had to create interventions based on what data we had available, whether it was their TPRI, whether it was their Star Renaissance reading level. And there's a report in there that tells you exactly what areas they need improvement on. So they have those reports to determine how they're going to specifically plan their guided instruction within their reading block to bring those students up. They also work very closely with our MRT and our dyslexia therapist to help kind of identify some of those red flags before they become red flags.
And you also mentioned, first of all, do you have an idea, and you probably don't, have an idea how many students do you have right now that are reading or not even at grade level, starting with maybe 2nd grade?
I do know that we finished our TPRI testing, and most of my 2nd grade teachers were very pleased that their students had done so well. I do not have the number exactly off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
That's okay. That's all right. Because when we as teachers tell our parents that our students are doing well, we don't tell them exactly where they are. And sometimes when a parent hears your child is doing well, they're not at grade level. They're below grade level. But they don't know that they're below grade level, so they don't know how to work with them at home. So again, thank you for the report. And also, some of the teachers that were presented here, and congratulations, I know that there's a lot of Lonnie Green teachers here, and thank you for what you all are doing. I know you're using Lone Star Reading and Lone Star Math.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
we still utilizing Lone Star Science as well in the district, or it's no longer being utilized? I guess this is for the curriculum department.
That would have been a fifth grade Lone Star Science when it was being used, Ms. Guanajuato Webb. The campuses have pretty much chosen to go to Countdown for Science, and that is something that we have already purchased for them to begin in January. So just a few changes. Our kinder first and second are using the math and the reading. Our third grade with the new math curriculum is using the reading, third and fourth and fifth, and then science will be changing.
Okay. And the reason I ask is because I have seen great deal of improvements with students through the science area. And if they're struggling through reading, but they like the science, they're going to be reading a science activity, which still helps them with their reading. And the reason I congratulate the teachers and what they're doing, you had excellent teachers being presented today, and then some of those you have pre-K teachers. And I know being at Head Start for the last 6.5 years, I can tell you that some of those students at Head Start presented at the university, the A&M University in Kingsville. And they not only presented, they were telling teachers and the Commissioner of Education at that time that these students that are 3 and 4 could tell you nouns, verbs, and adjectives. So if we can focus on starting from the bottom, we won't see these issues later on, and that's what we're hoping that will happen. And again, thank you so much for your presentation. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Any other board member? Just wanted to applaud you again for your efforts. I know that this is not a generic campus plan of action. It is very specific. I can tell that you've done a lot of work along with your staff. And if you keep that same focus, I'm sure that things will be much better. I'm glad that the expectations are high, that going from 69 to 79 is a big gain, but I know that it can be done. And I also, all the initiatives that you have in place are right in line. I think when you break down everything from the item analysis to specific questions, that's when you make the most gains, because it's tailored exactly for your campus. And that's one of the best that I've seen in regard to, again, tailor-made. So thank you again.
Sure, thank you.
Next item that we have is item 8B, textbook update. Ida Gomez.
Good evening, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, we are going to present a summary on our textbook update. The reason, first of all, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Laura Sandate. She is one of our newest coordinators. She is in charge of our technology. She's also in charge of our instructional materials allotment funds, which is a couple of $1 million every 2 years that we get to purchase technology and textbooks. So having her up here, I wanted you to know that we do have a person who is, one of her many responsibilities is textbooks. As we get started, the presentation is broken up into 3 parts. I did leave a packet on your desk. It's very lengthy, and I will not be going item by item. However, at the end, I can answer any questions that you may have, unless you'd like to stop throughout. It is broken up into 3 categories. First, I'll just go over some of the main publishers for our content areas. I will also address the IMA, the Instructional Materials Allotment Proclamations. What that means is that the state tells us what books we can buy on any given year. So you'll see our last adoptions maybe in 2011 for our English language arts are going to be coming up in 2019. So I wanted to give you that information. And then finally, just a count on our one-to-one initiative and how many venues and tablets we do have district-wide. All right? So if we start with our, at the very beginning, you'll see that for kinder through 5th, we use our Reading Street reading program. and an Envision math program. And that's across all contents, all grade levels in the elementary schools. We do have a McGraw-Hill ESL treasure chest component that teachers can use for ESL students. All the resources come with that set also. For social studies, we are using the Pearson Education, and for science, the McGraw-Hill. Board members, one thing you will notice is that many of our publishers are redundant. It's the same publisher for many of the adoptions because the teachers tend to like either a single publisher or the way the material's presented, the scope and sequence. So you will see that throughout elementary. One of the things we wanted to point out was, along with the list that you have in front of you, Troy Turner, our textbook clerk, actually keeps inventory of all the resources that come. And this is just a sample in front of you. All the grade level readers, they break them up into different levels of reading for the teachers to use. If it's a math program, you're going to see all sorts of kits with all the math manipulatives that teachers may use. So again, if anybody would like to see the actual inventories, we do have those available. As we move on to middle school, you're going to see that 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers chose Glencoe McGraw-Hill for their English language arts, their math, and their science. In 7th and 8th grade, you do see a social studies of Holt McDouglas, and that is the only exception to that publisher. As we move into high school, you do start seeing at the freshman and the high school level several more publishers. There's a variety, mostly because there are so many different contents that are taught. So for instance, at the high school level, you'll have English 1, English 2, English 3, and English 4. So that spans across 4 different grade levels, and they all chose the Glencoe McGraw-Hill. In your packet, mine is color-coded yellow. I had one copy that I was working with, but there should be like a gray area when you get to your high school textbooks. Those are all dual credit courses. Of course, the more dual credit classes that we offer, the more textbooks that will come into play. So anything that you're going to see on yours a little bit gray shaded, just know that those are all for dual credit courses. And of course, we know that dual credit, especially with the early college high school and the CTE building, have really taken or increased in the last couple of years. What I'd like to point out about the high school, if you could go back to the first page, Ms. Andate, is that at the very top or across, you'll see the content. You'll see the actual title of the book and the publisher. The copyright date is actually the date that the adoption came in. So in other words, that IMA proclamation. But what's interesting is on the side, you're going to see if it's a hardcover book, how many we have, and how many online licenses we also have. So you'll see the newer adoptions come with the licenses. We do have counts available for you. Those counts vary, and it usually depends on how many students we anticipate will be taking that course. So that information is also there for you. As we move on, you're going to see a few years ago, possibly 4 years ago, we started writing what's called a flex book, and it's an interactive textbook. So we brought in teachers. Many of them went to go see this in El Paso. They came back, they got together, and they actually wrote their textbooks. You'll see that at 6th grade, we have a social studies textbook that's called a flex book. Teacher puts it online. It's very interactive. The links are there. If you're discussing something, in history, you can actually click on the link and it comes to life, whether it's a video or whether it's just an image on a vocabulary word. In 7th grade, we do have a math and science flex book. In 8th grade, we have a math, science, and social studies. And then you'll see that at secondary, from 9th grade on up, we have an Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, U.S. history, and a world history. All of these flex books are also found on Dashboard. We have uploaded them so that teachers have quick access to them too. When it first started, they had to go to a specific link, but now everything is on the Dashboard. Another area that I'd like to point out are the recently purchased instructional materials. All of these purchases have been made with IMA funds in the last 24 months. You'll see 6th grade social studies, advanced placement U.S. history, dual credit government, accounting 1, bank and finance, business information management. You'll also see business management dual credit, principles of audiovisual, principles of hospitality and tourism, advanced automotive technology dual credit, human growth and development, instructional practice and education and training, and human services. There was a large focus on CTE the last couple of years because that was the proclamation of 2017. Teachers got together, these are the books that they chose, that was the year of the adoption, and those books went into place this year. And that's the process. They proclaim it, the book companies come, the teachers make their selections, they're brought to the board, we give you a summary of what they've chosen, and then we make the purchases depending on what's needed or what's going to take a priority. You'll see that I just mentioned the proclamation of 2017. This past year, we had the proclamation of 2018, and it included ethnic studies, including but not limited to African American studies, Mexican American studies, Asian American studies, Native American studies. We did not have many, if any, books purchased under that proclamation. Now, currently, for the year 2019, you'll see that for next August, the publishers have already started sending in all their samples. Curriculum and Instruction receives all the samples along with Troy Turner. There will be a large fair. Last year we held it at the CTE building. Teachers were invited to come. They listened through all the presentations. And again, the proclamation is there. We will be viewing English Language Arts and Reading, Kinder 8, English and Spanish, English Language Learners, Language Arts for 7th and 8th, Handwriting for K-5, Spelling for 1-6, and Personal Financial Literacy. That is what the state has said can be up for adoption for the next proclamation. As a summary for the one-to-one or the technology in the district, the instructional materials allotment has been able to purchase iPads for the last 3 years. We purchased for all the kinder teacher classrooms, all the first grade, and this year we were able to bring on the second grade teachers. So all those classrooms do have iPads. We do change the apps periodically. We get the information from the teachers as to what's out there and what they need. Cardwell and pre-K have 78. Kinder has 219, first grade 215, second grade 218. Calderon Elementary did have a one-to-one initiative through a grant where they purchased 88 for a grand total of 818. At San Felipe Memorial, used by the social studies and the math teachers, we do have 120 tablets. At Darrell Middle School, we have 593 laptops. Those are used in classroom settings. So the classroom would actually have 25 that could be used as needed. At freshmen, we have 791. These are either in a classroom setting or they're in the library for the students to check out, as at the Darrell High School, for a total of about 1,800. And I say about because I know there have been some reports of some that have been damaged, but when we started, it was about 2,000, and we're thinking we have anywhere between 1,800 to 2,000 at the campus. And that wraps up the textbook report. So at this time, I'd like to take any questions you may have.
Board members, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, just a curiosity question. What's one-to-one at Calderon? What does that mean? That grade?
The one-to-one initiative is a laptop per student. So it's one tablet. I'm a fifth grader. There were 88 students that participated, and they each had a tablet. Versus a classroom set, they just stay in the classroom. You might have 25, 15 students might be in the class. They just sit there. Another one might have 30. You'd have to double up.
Mr. Contreras?
On the iPads for the elementary schools,
Yes, sir.
do we track the usage on these iPads for teacher?
Actually, Mr. Henge, who's not with us tonight, is looking at a software that will do that. Right now, they do it, I want to say almost manually, and it's a difficult process. But he did report that he is looking to software that's going to do that.
I think it's a point of interest to see how many teachers are using them, and if they're not using them, why they're not being used. And if they're not planning to use them, then redistribute those to accommodate teachers that might need some that are actually using them. Because of course, while there might not be the newest and with the most memory, still it's something that students can use, especially if they're not being used in the classroom. So I would want an inventory on how many teachers are actually using them, especially the kinder, first grade, Cardwell, the lower level grades. I think it's important for our students to be able to access these type of iPads and for them to start getting used to using them and ask why the teachers are not using them, if they're stored or they've just been sitting there collecting dust somewhere.
We can definitely follow up with that, Mr. Contreras.
Thank you.
Ms. Sanders?
Ms. Gomez, I just wanted I have a concern about at the high school with the government class. I know that I was told that there was a teacher for the classroom, enough for the classrooms, but there's not enough for just in case the kids need to take them home to use them. So I was wondering maybe would it be, if you can just find out?
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe there could be a set in the library, so when they do, there will be enough, they can go check them out at the library, or if that's already happening. So I just, just some clarification on that.
That was government, correct?
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I will look into that for
Thank
you.
Mrs. Webb?
Yes, my understanding is, do these students take the iPads and the computer laptops home?
At the secondary level, they can check them out. They actually go and they check them out just like they would a book.
Okay,
So
and
yes,
how many
ma'am.
of them are brought back, ready to use, charged and everything? Because that's what I hear from teachers. Students don't bring them back, or they're not charged. They can't use them once they bring them back to school. So that's a concern. And the other comment I was going to make, you mentioned social studies at 8th grade. Has there been an analysis or an item analysis done with, just talking about social studies right now, of what items that are on the flex book are actually being tested on STAR? Because what's in flex book, let's say social studies 8th grade, it's introduced in 5th grade social studies. So if we are lacking or falling behind in our STAR at the 8th grade level, the introduction starts at 5th grade. So is there an item analysis or anything that's been done as to what is tested and STAR with relevancy to what's in the flex books?
Yes, ma'am. The team that actually wrote it was a team at that time of 8th grade teachers. And one of the things that they not only looked at, they looked at the scope and sequence, they looked at all the TEKs. Now, they did mirror other adoptions that were out there already created in the state, but they used all that information to create the flex book.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? I have a few. First of all, I'm taking this report as a textbook report, not as a one-to-one initiative. One-to-one initiative has to be comprehensive, but this is more of a textbook. I would like to see a one-to-one, including the starting year, the Kuno tablets, the amount we spent, and so forth. Now, in regard to textbooks, there are so many things. My first question has to do, we used to have a committee with representatives from all the campuses make the selection.
Yes.
For their subject matter, for their grade level, for their campus. And then there was discussion, and eventually the discussion was centered around if they had differing views, come to one consensus and one adoption. And I'm talking about publisher. Is that process still ongoing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My other question is a follow-up to Mr. Contreras. In regard to technology, I know administrators, principals can monitor the usage of computers on their campus, especially a lab setting, and determine, again, whether teachers are taking their students at their assigned time or not. Because years back, I would, as I served as principal, I would ask, is so-and-so coming to the lab? Because I could see the number of hours that were way below the normal usage from other classrooms. And so the question is, they skipped a couple of times. And so that's imperative. If we are spending money for technology, that it be taken advantage of. And that's pretty much in line with what Mr. Contreras is saying.
Yes, sir.
We buy these materials so that they can be utilized for assisting students in the subject matter, in the, for improving everything, whether it's reading, math, so forth, the software, the hardware, everything. Now, along those questions, I have the question of, has anyone compared, for example, our adoption with school districts that have scored always high in, let's say, reading especially, and then in math? Has anyone ever compared, again, our adoption with other districts that are scoring in the upper A's in regard to, the ratings that we get?
I know for reading, sir, I don't have that answer because I haven't looked at that.
Okay,
but I can tell you for math, we did compare Laredo ISD. They do use Envision Math, which
Pretty
is our
much
same math.
Our same adoption.
Yes, sir, and they did have
Okay.
several schools that were at an A.
I'm glad to see now that there's more it's almost consensus from the early elementary to the middle schools.
Yes, sir.
And I know that once they get to high school, it's totally different. I mean, it's always been the case where a different adoption is utilized. And for a reason, there's so many factors that come into play, but I'm glad that there's a consensus from early elementary up to middle school now, pretty much with the same adoption.
Yes, sir.
Which is,
That's
the
what we're seeing.
continuity is going to be there. So again, I hope that board members can participate in the viewing of materials when it comes time to, when they have their exhibits,
Yes,
that we
sir.
can attend, and not to make decisions for them, just to
Right.
see what's available.
And like I said, it's a large event. It's planned a couple of months in advance. We're already starting the process. We just have not finalized the date.
And so we're adopting textbooks, how often now?
I'm sorry?
How often are we adopting textbooks now?
Every year we have a proclamation, and every year we get the books that the state says we can review. So for instance, our elementary reading book was last adopted in 2011, because that's when the state said the last adoption was, and it is coming up for adoption next year. So we'll be reviewing those actually this coming January for 19 school year.
So approximately 7-8 years.
Yes, sir.
It's good to look at, when some are obsolete completely, because I know that they were obsolete, back then, years ago. And so we can keep, again, ahead of the game and making sure we're disseminating the right information for our students in regard to reading material and especially in history and so forth.
Yes, sir.
Question from Mrs. Weber.
Well, it's not a question. I just want you to acknowledge Troy Turner. He's been working with textbooks for many, many years, and let me tell you, he does an excellent job.
Excellent.
Excellent job, so.
And that's why I said if anybody needed any more detail, he has this inventory per campus, per textbook.
Thank you to him.
Any other questions? Thank you again for the report.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Next item that we have is we have attendance, 8C, attendance and discipline report. First 6 weeks, Dr. Garza.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. We will be making a attendance presentation today just to show you some of the things that we've been doing this year to improve attendance. When you look at the report that we sent you with the packet, you do see that some of the attendance has gone down for the first 6 weeks. This first chart shows you the school that had the best attendance, which is Dr. Lonnie Green. There were the winners for the first 6 weeks. For secondary, it was Early College High School. This report here is the same as the next one that I'm going to show you. It's a little bit more legible. So I'm going to go to the next report. This shows you the difference between 2018 and 2019. As you can see there, the district is lower than last year. It's about 0.34% lower than last year. We did have a decrease. That's about 34 students for the entire district. So you see other schools there that have also gone down, but you also see some improvements in some of the schools. What I do every day, we send a report to the principals every single day to show them exactly where they're at every single day. And what I've noticed after the 5th week, probably 6th week, I did notice that there were more black than red coming up. So I want to show you the next report, which is a progression of attendance for the entire year up to last Friday. And you will see there that on September 7th, as a district, we were 0.32% negative. I'm sorry, 0.32% negative on September 7th. On September 14th, we were also again below negative 0.31. And then on September 21st, it started going up. It was negative 0.21. And then on September 28th, it was negative 0.15. And then on October 4th, finally, we broke the barrier, and we are now in the positive as a district. And as of October 12th, we are at 0.24. So we do see a trend going up. Now, I do need to clarify something with October 12th. On October 8th, we had a staff development, and then we had a serious rain that night. And then October 9th, we had a very, very bad attendance day. It was above 10%, which gives us an opportunity to send a waiver again. So the number that you see there is with a waiver at 0.24. We also wanted to show you some of the things that we were doing last year in comparison to what we're doing this year. Last year, we are still doing case studies, we're still doing phone calls, we're still doing home visits for those parents that we do not get in touch with. We are also doing the case studies, and we're also still reporting students and parents to the BCFS program. But this year, we did something very different. We wanted to make sure that the principals had an idea of what they were going to start out with. So we compiled the report to every single campus, we sent it to them, and we showed them exactly how many students were having attendance problems. So we asked the principals to actually have some communication with the students and the parents, get a committee together, and start talking to these parents before we started, and throughout the 6 weeks as we started the school year. So that was extremely different of what we've done from the previous year. They met with the students, they met with the parents. The counselors were also involved in making sure that they would create avenues with the teachers so that they could see what concerns they might have at school, at home. Because that's one of the things that we need to make sure that parents understand that we're there to help them but we need to know what's at home so we can help them at school. So counselors were also very involved with that. Every campus created a committee, and this committee is going to be in charge of making sure that they evaluate data throughout the year, and so they also evaluate plans and initiatives that they can do throughout the year. Every campus has a different initiative. They do have some funds to create some incentives for these students. As a district, we do a movie matinee for the actual elementary and sixth grade. So we have our first one coming up on Wednesday, I believe. And we also have our teachers and our principals creating mentor and buddy systems. And we're also creating avenues to know our students. I know that I put Del Rio Cares here also. I wanted to talk a little bit about that, of how it's helping attendance, especially at secondary campuses. But first, let me tell you a little bit about elementary. I sent the actual lessons to the elementary counselors, not necessarily for them to actually teach the lessons to elementary, but for them to know exactly what we're doing at secondary so we could connect. I do believe that these lessons are helping our students understand that we have a community at the school that cares. And we're trying our best to make sure that every lesson that we present for our students is exactly that, so that they understand that there is someone here that cares for me, someone here that I can go to, someone here that can listen to me. So I believe that this Del Rio Cares is a very, very significant impact for our students. I have heard many, many teachers and principals tell me that this is really working. There is a lot of input from the students when they do these lessons. At this point, I'll open it up for any questions that you might have.
Okay, you've seen the report, it's in the agenda. Questions about attendance? Mr. Smith?
Just a couple of questions, not necessarily tied to the reporting, but this committee, what is that, students or is that teachers, or what is the committee?
It starts with the principal, sir. The principal is the head of the committee, and there is counselors, there's teachers. There is no students in the committee. This committee is just formed so that they can see data and understand what else they can do at the campus.
Okay, so they're just kind of putting together action
Yes,
plans
sir.
that are tied to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then that's the same group that's tied to the Del Rio Cares deal, or it's a different?
No, sir. That is an entirely different group. Every teacher at the secondary campus actually presents a lesson. But there is a group of counselors that came together this summer to create the lessons themselves. But it's more involved on that. I don't know if Dr. Rios wants to talk about that.
Well, Mr. Mesa, Mr. Smith, I think that what we want to do is give the Del Rio Cares initiative about another month and a half, and then hopefully in the month of November, or definitely December, have Mr. Wayne Richardson and Ms. Alda Zuniga, who are leading the initiative district-wide along with a committee, come make a presentation to give the board a more comprehensive view of what it's doing at each one of the campuses.
Makes sense, yeah, thank you.
Mrs. Webb?
You mentioned a matinee.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay. Is that related to specifically to what is being taught in the classrooms?
No, it's a movie matinee.
Yes, I know.
Presented here.
But anytime that any teachers have any movies within the campus, it was always tied to some form of something that had to do with instruction.
Right.
So that's why I'm asking.
It's actually just a movie that is presented to them as an incentive. Now, I'll just briefly tell you, for example, at sixth grade, there is 750 students there. We'll need 12 buses for the students, the amount of students that are actually coming up. And every year we compare the data to see if there's more students present from the previous year or having perfect attendance, and we do. We do have more students coming to school. Not necessarily the attendance is better, but we do have more students actually attending school with perfect attendance. Every year has it gone up.
No, and that's great. But whoever selects the movie for that day, maybe they can relay it to something that they are low in. It's still a movie for them. And sometimes students learn by seeing things versus just being told. So whoever is coming up with the movie selection, maybe they can be more rigorous in the selection. I don't know. I don't know how the movies are determined or selected.
Okay, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am, of
so-
course, we'll look into that. Thank you, ma'am.
I wanted to comment on the report, Dr. Garza. I'm glad that the historical attendance is being looked at because, you know, it's available and it's a report that's very accessible. The other part is, yes, I'm glad Del Rio cares and partnering with a buddy. I'm sure it's going to make a difference. The other thing is, I notice big things that are happening. For example, Lonnie Green has about 300 more students than, let's say, Chavira. And yet, they have the best attendance. Lonnie Green came out first. And it's almost, well, it's 787 students compared to 777 students at Chavira. Pretty much 300 difference. And something's happening there. I'm glad that students are going to school, and I'm sure that that same initiative can be done at the campuses that are falling behind. I do notice that, for example, Del Rio Middle School has fallen way short on the first 6 weeks, 7, as far as attendance. It's once they reach 91, I mean, we need to have somewhere closer to 95. Yeah, and for being the first 6 weeks, we usually attain it, and so something's happening there. But I also see the connection there with discipline in regard to fights. It's a big spike in numbers. The discipline report for Del Rio Middle School, it's a high number for fighting incidents, and so those things have to be addressed somehow. And if it's not addressed earlier in the year, it's going to continue with the same trend throughout the rest of the year. So just to make sure they tighten up on attendance, and I'm glad that we have implemented a change in regard to more assistance in the way of administrative assistance there with the number of students that we have there.
Yes, sir.
But I'm glad to see that there are different initiatives that are being implemented this year, and I'm sure that, hopefully that'll make a difference in curbing the high attendance or the high absence rate that we had, especially at Del Rio Middle School.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr.
Anybody
President?
else?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Contreras.
I really like that attendance strategies. But if we have this historical data on these students and we identify who these students are, do we or could we have, since these students have year after year, if we see a pattern, can we identify the pattern, or where they're missing Fridays or they're missing Mondays for 1 year, and then the following year they basically do the same thing and they're training, and you see the historical? You think we can have an attendance review at the very beginning of the school year and talk to the parent, bring them in and say, hey, we've noticed that for the past 2 or 3 years, you've missed so many days around these dates, and just to put them in notice that we are tracking them, and that itself might deter the parents or deter the students from, especially if they're going around the holidays, they're moving, going out of town, or whatever the case may be, just to identify them as and let the parents know that we are tracking their absenteeism. I mean, and have an attendance review from the very beginning of the school year, because we already know who these students are.
Yes, sir.
And the data will support it. So identify them, bring them in, and say, hey, just so you know, this is what we're looking at.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if I could be done or not. I'm just throwing it out.
Yeah, that was part of what we did. That's exactly why we identified these kids. There is a targeting plan that the principals have in conjunction with the counselors, and they get together and analyze that data and figure out, okay, if these students had all these absences last year, let's investigate why. And we make sure that we communicate with the parents. So we are doing something like what you just suggested, sir.
Great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item that we have on our agenda is item 8D, Facilities and Construction Update. Leslie Henge. He's not here.
And you pronounce his name perfectly.
I've been practicing in that.
We're going to have Mr. Alsop make the first part of the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Alsop, for covering.
Yes, sir.
President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board, good evening. Tonight, for the facilities and construction update, we'll be looking at maintenance department, campus improvements, service requests, technology department, filtering system, and their service requests, as well as the status on new construction around the district. At the Del Rio Freshman Campus, our carpenters from the maintenance department reconstructed and replaced a practice board at the tennis court. Our ticket summary for the previous month was 788. For this month, we were at 638. We were able to reduce that by 150. We had 494 new tickets submitted for the month of September, and we closed out 98 of those. Do you want to speak on that?
Sure. President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board, Tony Gonzalez, ID Director. So the internet content filtering is one of the agenda items that's on for today. This is something we've been working on for almost 2 years. We recognize that our district needs are ever increasing in terms of bandwidth and of course security for our students and staff. We've narrowed it down to this particular system that actually will bring us better bandwidth, a more secure way of connecting to the internet, and better yet, more access to internet resources without having to contact the technology department to open things up for them. The next slide is a ticket summary. And in this case, our tickets went from 456 in August to 771 in September. And this was largely in part due to the start of the school year, a lot of new teacher moves and changes. And we always anticipate that at the beginning of the school year. There's 131 computer tickets, 207 connectivity tickets, 93 printer tickets. We installed or repaired at least 10 security cameras. We show 4 network cable. Keep in mind that that's not just 4 cables we installed. That's at least 4 projects that we worked on. One of them may have had 30 plus network connections, for example. Continue that.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Question from Mr. Contreras.
Okay, sorry.
When we're looking at tickets for printers,
okay,
seems quite a bit when we don't have that many printers.
Well, no, we do have a considerable amount of printers. The tickets in depth may have been, we either replaced them, we either networked them, there may have been different things we did with the printers, improved them. A lot of times, one of the projects that we've been working on is to give everybody an alternative printing solution so that if the main printer that they use goes down, they always have, for example, a Toshiba copier to print to. And that's kind of a a secondary printer, and some of those tickets may be involved in that number. Just being proactive.
On an average, how many printers does each school have for teachers to use? Do you know, by any chance?
Not off the top of my head, no.
We can
I
get
know
that
they have the
report.
Toshibas.
Is it a one bundle contract that we have with the company, or?
Sir?
Because I know in years past, I know that we used to have, contract, or?
At the secondary level, you know, our copiers are our go-to printers. That's the standard. We do have printers that are networked, so the numbers are different, but it's better if we just get your report of how many networked printers we have, where it might be in the planning room or in the team leaders room, and then how many copiers we have that act as printers. We'll make sure to provide a report as soon as possible.
Yeah, if you don't mind providing that, the age of the printers and the copiers that each school has and the number of them, and when was the last contract that we had to those?
Yes, sir, and we'll focus on the ones that teachers have access to. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll do that.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, you want to go on with your report?
In our new construction at the Laughlin STEM Magnet School, we're currently constructing the new chain link fence around the campus and expect to be finished this week, weather permitting. The playground canopy installation is pending the shipment of the equipment, and that's expected towards the end of October. The water fountains and the landscaping turf are all received at this point, but we won't install those until the canopy is installed. The portable buildings.
I'm sorry, sir. Can you change the slide on the screen as well?
Sorry. The portable buildings, we've had 3 removed and 1 more to be removed this week. And we have another individual that might be interested in the remainder. He's going to do a site visit tomorrow to advise us how he wants to proceed.
Can I ask you a question there?
Yes, sir.
The one I see here on the far left, that's the one at Cardwell?
Yes, sir. That was taken when all 3 were still there.
Okay, now, but do we just have one at Cardwell right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes,
The others are behind the Colony Fairgrounds?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
The visitor side bleacher project at the stadium is complete. The last of the asphalt went in on September 28th, and we also completed new lighting and air conditioning for the bathrooms as well as the concession stand. At the high school, the restroom renovations are still proceeding as planned. Currently, they're working on the restrooms next to the cafeteria. They've got the pictures don't show it here, but they've got new tile in the floor in the female restroom as well as part of the wall. So they're on schedule to finish by November 22nd. The high school boiler project is complete, except for the flues. They're waiting on the manufacturer to deliver the flues, and then they'll instigate their startup. The ESCO project, right now, as far as the high school is concerned, we're in the phase 1 of installation of lighting. They have changed the lights out in the new gym most of the wall packs around the outside of it, and about half of the band hall. They were hoping tonight to finish the band hall. As far as the rest of the district goes, the installation of the lighting will start today, but it was supposed to start today. It's going to be tomorrow. And they've already started control system installation, and that's in regards to HVAC, and they started at Buena Vista in September and expect to be finished there this week.
May I
Also,
ask
as
a
you
question
can-
here?
Yes, sir.
If I could stop you again. Sorry to interrupt, but, we're dealing with different things here.
Yes, sir.
Now, in places, Buena Vista's been known where teachers are there weekends and prior to the start of the year. Is there a way of bypassing the system by an administrator if they get notice?
Right now, the system is still controlled by the installer because he programs it as he goes. He is training our lead technician and myself as far as programming of the thermostats. We've been in touch with the campus administration, and they are willing to let us know in advance when they need to be in the building, and we program it in. And I guess this last weekend was the first time that we've been able to do that, and didn't have any reports of problems. So most of the units came on that were already rewired.
Okay. And I know we're in the early phase of the installation, and I just want to make sure that if teachers do plan on being there the weekend, so they can give plenty of notice so that hopefully they won't be in a room that's 40 degrees cold.
Yes, sir. No, communication's the key to this. If
Okay.
they can communicate that to the administrator.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's just a follow-up
Mr. Contreras.
on Mr. Mesa. So then, I take it the district is adopting a one-temperature-fits-all schools. Once the system is set, we're going to have one temperature across the board as a cost-saving measure?
That would be.
Is that the idea?
That's the idea, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mrs. Webb?
I just have a question because I didn't see it in the maintenance department, but maybe there's no ticket item for it yet. The water leaks in the 1000 wing at the high school, I just received some reports from some teachers that their rooms were leaking, but then it might not have been reported. I don't know.
Yes, ma'am. I heard about that this past week, and we're looking into the cause of that. It's roof-related, it appears, and those roofs weren't part of the hail program, I guess, so they weren't replaced. So we're looking into that.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. You can go on with your report.
I was just going to say, if you notice on the right, that's just the schedule of what we hope the installers will go by. There may be some changes in between. And that's all. Any other questions?
Oh, that's the end of your report. Okay, questions to Mr. Smith.
Yeah, a couple. So you've got, this detail, you've got everybody listed here, but you don't really have a timing of when each campus is going to be kicked off.
No, sir. Are you referring to the control system?
Yeah.
It varies by school and the type of machinery that's there. Some require a little more. But they hope to get us, as they get moving through it, after they get through North Heights and kind of get a system going, they hope to give us some better timelines.
Better timeline.
Yes, sir.
And then going back to specifically your ticket, open, close tickets and maintenance. So you talk about previous months opening, we had a decrease of 150 from month to month. But as far as the tickets are open more than 90 days, is that decreasing or?
Yes, sir. We're striving to decrease that for sure.
Yeah, it'd be cool to be able to see that.
Yes, sir.
Because that, I mean, yeah, 90 days is big. And, you know, if there's items there that just ultimately end up dropping off because, or maybe they do or don't, I don't know, because we just choose not to react to a ticket. I mean, that's possible.
Right.
Right, there may be stuff out there that just, we're just gonna live with it, right?
No, it is our goal to reduce that number, and we're also trying to identify duplications. Some of those could be duplications of tickets, and they've already been repaired.
Yeah, and how do you do that no is appropriate answer? Like, I'm gonna open a ticket that says, I don't like the way this is done, and come fix it, and you decide no. How do you just register that as closed, or you?
I'm not sure I understand.
You're not following me?
No, sir.
Okay, so if I'm somebody that's going to open a ticket, and I open a ticket, but it's not really necessary in your mind to repair that item, paint that wall, or whatever it is that the ticket was open on.
Yes, sir. Our job controller, as she receives the tickets, she distributes them by trade. And on tickets such as that, kind of improvement type tickets that aren't absolutely necessary, she puts them in what we call a project pile. And then we go through them and ascertain whether it's feasible or if it's something that absolutely has to be done. And then we factor in the time required to complete it versus the open tickets that are necessary to complete.
Okay, so that doesn't, the ones that you deem not necessary, they don't hit this list, or they do and you just take them off?
Well, no, yes, sir, they are in this.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So they're not really.
That adds to that number as well.
Okay. All right, well, anyway, that I'd like to see whether that 216, that 90-plus day world, I mean, when you look at the IT one, you got one. That
Yes,
one,
sir.
that one, so that'd be good.
Yes, sir. No, sir, we're working on that.
Yeah.
Any other questions from board members? Thank you for the report, sir. Thank you so much. This time, we're now on item 9 on the agenda, consent agenda. Again, one action will approve all items on the consent agenda. I'll ask board members if there's any item that they would like to pull out and vote on it separate, or if there's any question regarding any item on the consent agenda, to ask if you need more information. And while you're doing that, if I could have Mrs. Gonzalez acknowledge the donations that we have for this month.
Amistad Bank, $50, Blended Academy. The Spot and Pro Shop, $275, Buena Vista Elementary. Texas Department of Public Safety, $600, Operation Graduation, Del Rio High School. Gaddy's Pizza, $391.35, Del Rio High School Athletic Trainers. Tres Aguilas Management LLP, Whataburger, $571.20 to Del Rio High School cheerleaders. Christy Barrera, $200, Del Rio High School Metal Trades. The Spot and Pro Shop, $400, Dr. Lonnie Green Elementary School. The Spot and Pro Shop, $157, Garfield Elementary School. The Spot and Pro Shop, $350, North Heights Elementary School. Box Tops for Education, $553, Ruben Chavira Elementary. The Spot and Pro Shop, $360, San Felipe Memorial Middle School Robotics. Amistad Snacks, 2 $5 Whataburger gift cards valued at $10. 2 $5 Chick-fil-A gift cards valued at $10. 2 $5 Starbucks gift cards valued at $10. Total value $30 to Blended Academy. Border Federal Credit Union, 1 wireless Bluetooth speaker valued at $60, Blended Academy. Raspa King, $72 gift vouchers for a total value of $140 to Blended Academy. Bianca Rocha, $10, $15 gift cards for a total value of $150 to Buena Vista Elementary Student Council. HEB curbside pens, pencils, notebooks, folders, and binders for a total estimated value of $150 to Del Rio Middle School. City Church of Del Rio, 112 bags of groceries for a total estimated value of $560 to Dr. Fermin Calderon Elementary. Suzanne Villarreal Lozano, 9 Mary Kay facial soaps for a total estimated value of $245 to Early College High School. Anonymous, composition books, glue, and Play-Doh for a total estimated value of $200 to Garfield Elementary. The First United Methodist Church, 20 bags of groceries for a total estimated value of $200 to Garfield Elementary. GMS Tires, 2 bicycles and 2 helmets for a total estimated value of $130 to Irene C. Cardwell Elementary. Melly's Cookies, 1 gift card in the value of $30 to Irene C. Cardwell Elementary. Levana Melander, PA speaker systems, popsicles, and candy in the total estimated value of $125 to Laughlin Elementary STEM Magnet School. Levana Melander, popsicles, and candy in the total estimated value of $14 to Laughlin Elementary STEM Magnet School. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. I'd also like to remind board members that on the consent agenda, we also have 2 of our previous meetings. If you have any changes or corrections to the minutes, this would be the time to bring up those changes if we need to have Betty make any changes on the minutes. I'll ask you, are there any items that need to be pulled out for separate consideration? Anyone have a question on any specific item? Hearing none, then I will ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Contreras made the motion. Is there a second to the motion? Mrs. Webb? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Consent agenda is approved. And if it pleases the board, item under administration, item 12A, we have a representative that is from out of town. So we would like to extend the courtesy of moving that to the first item that we have under administration. And that would be item 12A, consideration to approve purchase order over $25,000 and amend contract over $5,000 with Kissling Architects Incorporated for a total amount not to exceed $181,495. Funding source, committed funds for renovation at Del Rio High School 200 and 400 wing. Does it meet the board approval to move that item up? Okay. Then we will have item 12A first. And since Mr. Henge is not here, we have Mr. Alsop.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. My name is Antoinette Trevino, and on behalf of Kissling Architecture, I am proud to present to you the renovation proposed design for the 200 and 400 wing of the Del Rio High School. Our design objective was to give these areas a fresh and updated look. The high school was built in 1962, and it's been 56 years. In the end, our design reduced the noise levels in the classrooms, as well as increased the safety of these wings, and hopefully it will also uplift the moods of the staff and students. We anticipate this proposed construction activity to come concurrent with Schneider's energy construction so that the students are not displaced twice. Our classroom renovations will consist of the removal of the tectum walls on the exterior only. The original design had it placed here. This is a noise reduction material. It's a cementous wood fiber panel that back then was suitable. It's now decomposing. It does not contain any hazardous materials. Most people think it does, but it does not. We will also be removing the pre-finished wood panels. The glue on those panels is dried out. It is slowly falling off of the walls. It's presenting a maintenance issue for your maintenance staff, and we'd like to remove that. Once we remove those wall panels, we will retexture the gypsum walls that are existing within these classrooms. We will remove and replace the VCT with LVT flooring. We will remove and replace the rubber flooring base as well, and add acoustical wall panels to 2 of the walls in each classroom. This is a material that's going to reduce the noise levels inside your classroom and can also offer as a pin board or display board for your teachers without harming the walls and maintenance staff having to come in every year and repaint. Rooms 203 and 206 in the 200 wing will be divided to form 4 new classrooms. Each new classroom will hold 32 students. This black and white drawing depicts where these proposed finishes will be put at. We have the LVT on the floor, of course. And on the wall, we have a Mannington acoustical homosite panel, and the walls will be a pure white. This is what we propose for it to look like. This is a fresh, clean, and mature look for the classrooms, and we hope the students will appreciate that. In the halls, they will receive the same finishes except for the acoustical wall panels. We will not be implementing those in the hall. Rather, they will get a new layer of gypboard to add fire protection. It's going to increase the fire rating of the corridors, so it'll increase the fire safety within those areas. We will also be replacing all the wood doors and wood frames with hollow metal doors and frames. Those doors and frames will be painted to match. We will, of course, still be replacing the flooring. We will also be, during this renovation, we will also be sprinkling the classrooms and the halls. Currently, they are not sprinkled. TEA recommends it, but because the level of alteration that we fall under, it is required by code. Here's a drawing of the branch hallways, I call them. Those are the side chutes off the main corridor. You can see the same finishes are proposed. This is what it'll look like. I will say that on the walls, we show the wall paneling. This will not happen here. It will be straight level 5 gypboard with paint. This is what the main corridor will look like. This is where the wall protective paneling system will be at. This is a plastic and cotton material that's very durable. Here's a floor plan of the 200 wing. As you can see on the very bottom of this plan, classrooms 206 and 203 are divided in half. Currently, they are science labs. We are proposing to remove all the lab equipment, including the gas lines and water lines, and turn these into general classrooms, not science labs. Here's a plan of the 400 wing. 400 wing will not get any plan changes. The classrooms will stay as they are. And I would just like to add that if anyone is interested in seeing what this color scheme will look like, it has been implemented in the counselor's office at the Del Rio High School. So I invite you to take a peek. At this time, are there any questions?
Board members, I'll open it up for questions.
Has this been part of the plan?
Mr. Contreras.
How long has this been in the planning stage as far as these wings?
Yes, sir. When we started talking about the ESCO project, it was suggested by board members that we not only put up new lights and still have the same walls and the same ceilings. So at that point, we began with a plan to fix as much of the high school as necessary in steps. So the plan was to fix the 200 wing and then transition the teachers from the 400 wing into the 200 wing, and then fix the 400 wing next and transition the 1,000 wing teachers into the 400 wing. And then at that point, have a recommendation as to what we would do with the 1,000 wing. At this point, we haven't formalized the recommendation of the 1,000 wing, but we are considering something for the fine arts. And I have visited already with the architects to explore the 1,000 wing and see how easily it could be turned into a dance studio. The dance has grown a lot bigger since we first had the program begin. And between dance company, bells, cheerleaders, there's definitely a need for that. We had thought about the old CTE wing. However, this, at least initially, appears to be more affordable. Again, we haven't finalized the plans. The only ones we've talked about right now are the 200, 400. Hopefully, the architects can give us a price to begin an initial study for the future, but that has not been finalized. So, I'm sorry, sir, long answer, but it came with the ESCO project.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, because I know on page, it's not numbered, but it should be page 60. It said that the 200 and 400 wing. So I guess the work will continue?
The work on the 200 and 400 wing?
Yes. That's what it says on.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yes, we've only been contracted for schematic design phases, where I guess Mr. Alsop will be proposing construction documents to be produced, bidding, and then a recommendation from us regarding the contractor.
Okay. I think my only question, other than that, was when you say classrooms will be sprinkled, you're adding the sprinkler system for the fire code. And is that something that is new, that is required?
Of course, the building was designed in '62, but now per 2015, educational facilities are required to be sprinkled if they are over 12,000 square feet. The 200 wing is over 14,000 and the 400 is over 15,000 square feet.
Okay. Okay. And any other questions? Mr. Smith? All right. Then what is the recommendation from administration?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees authorize Superintendent of Schools to sign the contract and purchase order for services with Kissling Architects, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $181,495.
You have heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Smith, seconded by Mrs. Gonzalez. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go back to the original 10A, consideration to approve update to the order and notice of election for the tax ratification election to be held on Tuesday, November 6, 2018, in Acani Valdez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, board members. The original notice of election, order and notice of election was approved on the August 20th board meeting. Since that meeting, we have had some revisions to the polling locations, the early voting site, and that information was placed on our exhibits of the order and the notice, so that information was updated. And then we received information from Ms. Janie Ramon that the one line needed to change within the order and notice of election, which is the date for the ballots to be mailed. Our order and notice has been posted. She documented a change with her initials on it as the elections administrator. However, since it is a change to the order and notice of election, it does require board approval, and this is prior to that deadline and prior to early voting. And the red line version of the changes was sent on the September 28th board update.
So I believe the two changes were the old courthouse.
Yes, sir.
And also precinct 31, if I recall, Baptist Church.
Yes, sir.
You used to be Buena Vista School.
Yes, sir.
Right.
When the conversations initiated, they had not received confirmation from Baptist Church, and Buena Vista was the next location.
Okay. Any questions from board members? Okay, what is the recommendation from administration, please?
Thank you, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the update of the order and notice of election for the tax ratification election to be held on Tuesday, November 6, 2018.
Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Mr. Contreras, and seconded by Mr. Smith. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10B, consideration to approve superintendent evaluation instrument and performance goals for 2018-2019. If you would look, starting, I believe it's on page 54. It says 53 here. You will see, again, the required items for the evaluation. You will also see the performance goals, and I hope you have had plenty of time to look over them. But what I wanted to just make sure that I communicated this with board members is, as long as if you would like to add any other reports requested, then it would be appropriate to do that with plenty of time, so that hopefully, if you would like, I know it mentions here like staff development report is one that's going to be communicated and given to us. But if there's any other report that board members request, I know that on the instrument itself, it lists several reports, staff development being one, and I know that we get the text assessment of progress report, which is that big old binder that we get for all the schools that are there, and all the ratings that are given to all the schools and distinctions and so forth. You will see that time of the target goals, they're specific, they're smart. Again, some of them will have a certain percentage, 2%. I remember the distinctions being that we will have at least 2% an increase in distinctions by campus. And most of them will start with a superintendent will maintain, superintendent will ensure, superintendent will encourage, and so it's, again, Dr. Rios that will implement these performance targets, and then supportive staff will follow up on making sure that those targets are met. As I mentioned, the commissioner's evaluation instrument that is suggested has 1, report on student performance, 2, superintendent performance targets, 3, other management responsibilities of the superintendent. And again, that includes the worksheet that is provided by the Commissioner of Education. And you will see that worksheet that is filled out with the most current information from the TAPER report. This time I will entertain any questions or any other item that board members have in regard to the instrument. So, Dr. Rios?
Yes, Mr. Mesa, members of the board. I wanted to just clarify something on the performance targets. When it lists here that we'll provide a report, that just simply says it'll be a formal presentation, whether the board chooses for us to present it here in open session, or that we share that with y'all via board update. However, any additional reports that you want, I believe it's in January, I'll have to check the assessment calendar. We specifically have a meeting, so it really gives y'all a whole lot of time to think what other reports in terms of data you want me to make available as part of the evaluation. So it doesn't have to be tonight. On that meeting day, you can request any types of reports, data profiles to help you all make your determination as to the district's progress. The reports indicated today just indicate that those will be presented in a more formal manner, but you're certainly entitled to ask for any data reports. Really, we'll do it anytime it's reasonable before the evaluation. But on that specific meeting day, we'll specifically have an agenda item so that you all can request reports leading up to the evaluation.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that clarification. Again, so we have plenty of time to request any additional report that will be given to us. So again, we would like to set the month of January as the deadline to at least have plenty of time for administration to gather the reports for us. Any questions from board members? Then the purpose of this item is, again, to approve the superintendent evaluation instrument and the performance goals for 2018-2019. And I will entertain a motion for approval.
Move.
Mr. Contreras, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Item 10C, consideration of a proposal to direct administration to begin the renaming process for the Laughlin STEM Elementary Magnet School. And again, if you would look on, I believe it's page 54. In accordance with Board Policy CWL local, the board shall have complete authority and responsibility for the permanent naming of district facilities. The following guidelines shall govern the permanent naming of new or existing school facilities. Consideration shall be given to naming elementary schools after the area or subdivision in which they are located, or after individuals who have made significant contributions to the educational program of the district or the community. The board shall provide the opportunity for the community to submit nominations for school names. And I would like to name a committee head to spearhead this endeavor. And Mr. Contreras, would you be willing to chair this committee?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And any board member that would like to be part of the committee, I know that Mrs. Webb has to be part of that committee. Dr. Rios?
Yeah, I want to apologize, Mr. Mesa. I provided you wrong information. Let me just clarify that. The renaming of the committee, the committee needs to be chaired by the superintendent. Obviously, it's just a figurehead, but the board has to appoint 2 board members to represent the board. So by policy, I have to chair. That just means I send out the emails and organize the process. But the board names 2 members to represent the board. So I get that it would be Mr. Contreras and Ms. Webb. But I apologize for providing you the wrong information just a few minutes ago.
Okay, all right. I don't think we have any problem with that. The
No, I don't have any problem with that. I just got a couple of questions. So I don't know. I'm trying to think. A year ago, give or take,
Yes.
we had an action on the agenda for
Garfield.
For Garfield. What, I mean,
I'd like to, yes. And I just reminded Dr. Rios before we came to this item, because I know that back then, I think Amy was named as the chair of the committee. And so now it's a little bit different, but I question that. And so I don't have any problem with, Dr. Rios being the chair of the committee. I'd like to just mention in regard to Garfield, there were so many names submitted that the process is still ongoing. No decision has been made on Garfield. It's still being evaluated. There were many names submitted, and so
this would just simply kick this campus into the same process, and is that what we're talking about?
Dr. Rios, you want to give some additional information?
Yes, the renaming of Laughlin Magnet did come up because Board Member Contreras asked for that item to be placed on the agenda. Now, with the renaming of Garfield, that process is still alive. However, it was discussed, and I visited with the board president. My discussion really centered around the fact that the people that were recommended or the names that were submitted are all very worthy recipients. After considering the names, the board still has to take action. But I suggested to Mr. Mesa that the names that were recommended are so worthy that singling any one of them out to name a campus, I'm afraid it'll cost more division than really serve to honor somebody just because it's just, they're just that valuable. So I don't want to create something that's going to be more divisive than unifying, and we really have to revisit that or consider what other facilities may be named after all the people that were named. So I just think that we need to talk about it a little bit more, and we could discuss it at an appropriate time. But I really think it would be more divisive than unifying.
Okay, I don't disagree. I'm just trying to understand if you've got 2 districts or 2 campuses that are in the same process, how to prioritize that and so on and so forth. So, yeah, okay. I'm good.
It's kind of unfinished business, but
yeah,
it'll continue.
pretty much.
Okay. Well, again, the item is brought again, and the corrections have been made. Dr. Rios will chair the committee. We have 2 board members already that have volunteered and asked to be in the committee. So I will ask for the board members for a motion to approve the committee for renaming again Laughlin Elementary Magnet School, headed by the committee again with Chair Dr. Rios, members Fred Contreras and Linda Guanajuato Webb to be in the committee. Is there a motion for approval? Mrs. Gonzalez, seconded by Amy Sanders. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We're down to item 10D, consideration to approve first reading of localized policy update DNA, performance appraisal evaluation of teachers. Sandra Hernandez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Today, I am bringing forth one policy, DNA local performance appraisal evaluation of teachers. This policy includes revised text to amend the criteria to meet eligibility requirements for less than annual appraisals. The new language clarifies that in order to be eligible for a less than annual evaluation under the T-test, teachers must be assigned to a campus with a projected overall performance rating of Met standard. Additionally, the revised text was included to clarify that for a less than annual appraisal, if the recent appraisal resulted in ratings of at least proficient in 9 of the 16 dimensions, and it did not identify an area of deficiency defined as a rating of improvement needed or its equivalent on any of the 16 dimensions identified in the Chapter Administrative Code 150.1002A, or the performance of the teacher's students as defined in Chapter 19 of the Administrative Code 150.1001F2.
Questions from board members?
How hard is it to qualify now?
Mr. Contreras.
What we've done is we've actually allowed, there are 2 criteria that have been brought forth. The first is that the campus, the teacher is requesting less than annual appraisals. The campus has to have met standard overall. The second part of that is that for the teacher, in order to qualify, the 9 of the 16 dimensions is actually what is being recommended in legal policy and in the T-test criteria. What we had previously were that all of the dimensions were to have been met. So this actually is in alignment with the legal policy and in alignment with the T-test.
So if the teacher had already prior qualified for the waiver, it doesn't, she can't qualify she can't, in other words, be used,
It does not affect.
it doesn't affect.
No, unless, again, want every board member to understand that every campus has to meet standards. If you do not meet standards, everybody gets evaluated again on that campus. And normally, the waiver is for 3 years.
Correct.
Dr. Rios?
A little bit more on the question posed by Board Member Contreras. Had we left the policy written the way it was, it would have been impossible for any teacher to qualify once they began reviewing the new appraisal system, because the language now would, I guess the message that needs to be sent out to everybody is that just to gain proficient is like hitting it out of the park. So to say that a teacher was going to get all of the areas named as proficient, the training should make it clear that there isn't such a teacher out there that would just be hitting it out of the park in every domain. So if the language would have stayed the same, it would have been clearly impossible. By mirroring the state language now, it definitely makes it possible, but I think that this is a good time just to make it clear to our principals and everybody evaluated that we really don't expect for too many people to get beyond that many areas as are stated in the policy. If somebody was to get that high of a rating in each one, then we really wouldn't be clear to the coaching part and the growth part that's suggested with the T-test document.
Is anybody going to review what the principals bring forward as far as those? Are you going to be monitoring?
The principals have all been through extensive training and have had to qualify, but when the evaluations are submitted, they're all gathered, and we could put some type of committee together to review it, just to calibrate and make sure that we were all doing what we said we were going to do. So we can definitely do that, Mr. Contreras. Of course, that wouldn't be until the end, but we'll have continued revisits and training to make sure that we're all doing what we were trained to do.
Great.
And I think that's needed, again, to double check that every administrator at the campus level is doing what the other principals are doing. In other words, that there be consistency in following the policy that is being addressed right now.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from board members? Then recommendations?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of DNA Local and the revisions to the language in this policy as recommended by the Board Policy Review Committee.
You have heard the recommendation from administration. I will entertain a motion for approval.
So move.
Mr. Contreras, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next item that we have is item 11A, consideration to approve Franklin Media to pick up out-of-adoption textbooks and recycle and/or dispose of them at no cost to the district. I like to hear that, no cost to the district. Ida Gomez.
Not very often. Yes, once again, President Mesa, Board President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. Currently, our district has 48 pallets that are shrink-wrapped of of textbooks that are out of adoption. Those textbooks are of absolutely no value to the district. Franklin Media can pick up the books. All the books would then be taken to their warehouse in Irving, Texas, where they would be sorted. Anything that would be reused would be separated. Some items and teacher materials would be donated to local nonprofits. All the other books would be recycled or disposed of, again, at no cost to the district. They also do donate truckloads of books to Books for Africa. This evening, I come before you for the consideration to approve Franklin Media to pick up the out-of-adoption textbooks and recycle them or dispose of them at no cost to the district. Are there any questions?
Question from board members. The recommendation, please.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approves Franklin Media to recycle and/or dispose of the out-of-adoption textbooks.
You have heard the recommendation from administration. I will entertain a motion for approval. Mrs. Guanajuato Webb, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Gomez. Item 11B, consideration to approve agreement with Southwest Texas Junior College Workforce Training and Development Division for the continuation of Career Technology Education Emergency Medical Technician, EMT, and EKG phlebotomy course programs. Roger Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This memorandum of understanding is a very specialized contracted service with Southwest Texas Junior College Workforce Training and Development Division for health science capstones programs. The MOU includes the EMT, EKG, and phlebotomy coordination, clinical consultation, certification exam study guides, and individual student certification testing fees. The MOU and the additional information is provided under separate cover for your review. The payment of this program is budgeted under the General Fund CT state programs.
Questions from board members? Hearing none. Could you read the recommendation, please?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the Superintendent of Schools to sign the Memorandum of Understanding with Southwest Texas Junior College Workforce Training and Development Division and pay the invoice when due.
You have read the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Contreras, seconded by Ms. Haynes. All those in favor, please indicate. Haynes Sanders. Everybody have one in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. We're down to item 13A. Consideration to approve first reading of policy CDA local and review the guide for standard operation procedures and internal controls. Yanakani Valdez.
Good evening again. The first reading for policy CDA local is part of a legal policy CDA. It does require that the board review the investment policy, which is our local policy, and investment strategies not less than annually. Every September or October, we bring the first reading to the board, and by November, we have the second reading completed. The investment advisor, Patterson and Associates, has made recommendations for changes being presented to our CDA local policy. They are minor changes just for clarifications. We do have a legislative session coming up, so next year's policy may have lots of legislative updates. The system included in our board policy, a CDA local, it requires a system of internal controls, and that's what we refer to as our manual. I do have a USB for everybody. It is about 300 pages, and it does have the standard operating procedures and internal controls throughout the finance departments. So I do have a USB that I will pass out to everybody to give you an opportunity to review it before the second reading. And at the next meeting, we will have a resolution regarding the review of the investment policy. Are there any questions at this time?
So
Question for board members, Mr. Contreras?
what exactly are we supposed to be looking at in this? I saw the changes and stuff, which relatively minor. However, I don't understand the idea behind this.
The idea behind the policy, sir?
Yes, I mean, it just
Oh.
seems that the standard standard operating procedures, what is it that it's gonna change?
Within.
As far as investment, you know, as far as how you invest or where you allocate the monies, or?
What the board policy itself, the legal portion of the policy requires that we present it to the board every year, whether there are any updates or not. Our investment advisor reviews it as as they work with other school districts, they identify different points of clarification that they'd like to add just to make the policy safer and have more controls in place. But our manual that we have, it's a 300-page standard operating procedures manual that describes all the processes within all of the finance departments, and within those processes, there are internal controls identified. The manual itself does not have any updates except for change in names of individuals and change of names of individuals in the positions. The manual is reviewed by the auditors, and the manual was prepared in compliance with federal regulation requirements, and we did attend training for that, and that was about 4 years ago. Since then, they haven't made any recommendations to change for any changes on the internal controls manual. But as a department, we continuously review it just to ensure that it is clear, that it does provide the process as detailed as we have it, and make sure that if there's any questions from the campuses, because campuses follow some of the processes within that manual, that we make the updates necessary.
So is this basically more for the auditors themselves when they come and audit, or for the board members?
No, sir. This policy is going to be reviewed every single year, and it's always going to have minor changes. But the main purpose of this policy is to safeguard the money of the district, where we can invest it and where we cannot invest it. So this policy will list the instruments that we can use to invest, and then it does set some parameters for the auditors to use. But as I've reviewed the policy, I feel that the number one goal of the policy is to ensure that our investments are secure. We don't want to go invest in high-risk areas and all of a sudden come tell the board that, you know, the $24 million that we have to have in fund balance, 12 of it is gone. So the main purpose is to safeguard the money and make sure it's all safe, and then a piece for the auditors to help us, and then the reports that we need to give to the board. For example, somewhere in the policy, I'm sure it says that we need to provide quarterly investment reports to the board.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rios. And Yanakani, I think there were some deletions in the wording.
There were, sir, yes.
Page 5 out of 6. Avoidance of bearer, foreign securities.
Yes.
Some
and-
corrections in regard to, just minor.
Oh, yes, sir, yes,
Yeah.
sir. And again, recommendations from the investment advisor as they identify, or as they make our policy as safe as possible.
Are there any other questions from board members? Yanakani, do you have a recommendation?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the first reading of policy CDA local.
Okay, you have heard the recommendation from administration. Again, this is a first reading. Want to entertain a motion for approval? Mr. Smith? Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We're down to Human Resources, item 14A. Consideration to approve the submission of the 2018-2019 request for maximum class size waiver to TEA. Aide Garcia.
Yes, good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, members of the board. Each school district is required to conduct a class size enrollment survey for kindergarten through fourth grade. And we conducted our survey, and we became aware that there's one classroom at Buena Vista Elementary with 24 students instead of the 22-to-1 limit. So therefore, the district must submit a request for maximum class size waiver and also a compliance plan, which is included in your packet. And the plan does state that the district will streamline the transfer request process to minimize request transfers to campuses with high enrollment.
Okay. And I'd like to just again, I guess, applaud administration in the past. I've been on this board for a number of years, and I know before we get a huge list. We have one student at this time. I think administration has done a great job of balancing students, although, you know, again, I did talk to Dr. Rios about some campuses are getting too big now, but that's because of the growth on the north side. But I'm glad that we have one waiver, whereas before we had as many as 14, 15 students.
Yeah.
So a good job by balancing the number of students per classroom. Any questions from board members before we ask Mr. Smith?
So this is what grade?
This is fourth grade at Buena Vista Elementary.
And the other fourth grade classes are right on target at 22, or
Yes, sir.
we got some that are at 19 that we?
No, they're at 22.
They're all at max on target.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Then would you read the recommendation, please?
It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the submission of the 18-19 request for maximum class size waiver exception to TEA, as well as the compliance plan.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Mrs. Guanajuato Webb. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item that we have is item B, consideration to approve employee job description and evaluation forms for, again, specialist student support, coordinator, student services, safety monitor, secretary, district police, Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. In your packet, we included 4 job descriptions. 2 of them, which is the Secretary for District Police and Safety Monitor, were updates for a title change. And the Specialist for Student Support, this is a new job description that the campus at Early College High School has requested due to increased enrollment and compliance requirements for testing and keeping up with dual transcripts, since they have to keep up a transcript for high school and then also one for the junior college. The Coordinator for Student Services, this is a position that we want to reclassify. When our Director of Student Service retires in December, we want to convert this into a coordinator position. Any questions?
Board members, starting on page 62, you do have, again, the job descriptions and the evaluation forms. So we will be approving these along with the different positions. Ms. Gonzalez has a question?
On this, what is it, the Coordinator for Student Services, it says he's going to report to
the Chief Financial Officer.
So we received a memo from you, Sir Bond.
Yes, that's correct. We talked about it Friday late in the evening, and I was going to make that recommendation or that change. Ms. Valdez, Michelle Smith, and myself met, and we agreed that because it would be a coordinator, that it'd be better served reporting to Michelle Smith, which is PEAMS director. The official title will make that note, but it will report to Director Michelle Smith.
Okay.
Okay, there is a change.
That's gonna be
Again,
amended.
supervising
We've amended.
administrator will be, yes,
With the amendment, yeah.
Michelle Smith.
The actual title is,
Assessment and Accountability
Michelle Smith is
Director.
PEAMS.
What is your title?
Director of Assessment and Accountability.
Any other questions from board members? Mr. Contreras?
Quite honestly, Mr. Mesa, I wanted to see if we can table this. I mean, I was out of town this weekend, and I would want to meet with Dr. Rios on some of these positions and their salaries, if possible.
Table all of them?
Yes.
All of them. Is there any discussion from board members? Dr. Rios, is there any timeline?
Well, here's my only concern, and it's not that we can't work around it, but the positions here, the only one that I guess I'm under a crunch is the coordinator of student services. Mr. Valdez retired, and I had informed the board that we would not replace him as a director, but downgrade the position to student services coordinator to save money. At the same time, Dr. McNamara has already submitted her retirement paperwork and is no longer reporting to work. And I'm holding on to Dr. Garza as long as I can before he retires. But I do need to advertise that job, bring somebody in with a transition. So if I bring it in November, and it's approved then, and then I bring a recommendation in December, then it does limit the amount of time I have to probably transition that. Unless the board would be interested in having a special call meeting shortly thereafter, so to decrease the time. But because we've reduced cabinet by 2 positions, and because we're downgrading from a director to a coordinator, I do need appropriate time to transition so that students and community parents can be serviced appropriately.
And
So,
again,
so it's up to the board, but I just ask for some consideration in that area.
And Dr. Rios, these aren't just the job descriptions. Later on, we make the recommendation for the actual position, so I don't know if that helps.
yeah, I just wanted to remind the board that, it seems like this year is really going by fast, and student services is a position that, is very much well needed, and there's a gap in there right now as it is. Is there any information, Mr. Contreras, that can be provided
Well,
to
I have questions on the actual job descriptions and what they're going to be doing as far as, each one along with their salaries. That I would want more in depth before I actually go forward on this. Me personally, I don't know about anybody else on the board, but that's just the way I feel right now.
Pay schedules in there too. What about
Ms. Gonzalez?
after executive session, would that give you some time to talk about it?
Well, it's not so much about executive session or anything, I mean.
Oh, no, it's just that as far as time, not doing it now, but waiting until after executive session when we can talk about it there and then vote on it later, today.
Some questions that you might have. It is on the agenda, which, allows us to,
Okay,
if you have questions, for those questions to be asked during that time.
okay,
Would that be okay?
yes, sir.
Okay. And I do realize the urgency that, we have to fill that position especially because of, again, the timeline that we have in regard to, it's already mid-October, and before you know it, it'll be mid-year, and so those services are needed like ASAP. So we won't, we'll table it until we come back. Would that be okay with Dr. Rios?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay. We are going to table that item until we reconvene in open session after some questions have been answered in regard to questions that Mr. Contreras might have. So I will not ask for a recommendation at this point. We now go to item
sir.
C?
Motion to table till after closed session.
Oh, we have to then approve a motion to table, I'm sorry.
To table until after
Yes.
closed session. yeah.
Yes, to table until after it's, Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we are going to table that item until after executive. Then we go to item C, consideration to approve the conversion of excess budgeted position for a principal secretary position at Del Rio Middle School. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. Administration usually allocates 5 extra positions to the budget for anticipation and additional personnel. And at this time, due to the redesign at Del Rio Middle School, we will need a secretary at the 7th grade level. So we are requesting your consideration to approve that position.
Okay, questions from board members? Okay. Then would you read the recommendation, please?
Sure. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the conversion of excess position budgeted for principal secretary position at Del Rio Middle School.
You've heard the recommendation from administration. I will entertain a motion for approval. Ms. Gonzalez, seconded by Ms. Guanajuato Webb. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Table that one also.
Since we tabled item B, we're going to table item D as well. This is the same, pretty much, consideration to approve the conversion of excess budgeted position for a student support specialist position at Early College High School. So I will entertain a motion for tabling item 14D.
After executive session, correct?
Okay. Yes. Amy Sanders, seconded by Mrs. Guanajuato Webb. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. So we are going to table item B and item D. Next item that we have is consideration, item E, consideration to approve updates to the 2018-2019 district compensation plans. Aide Garcia.
We would have to table these two because those positions are listed here as well.
Okay. It has to do with extending the days for secretary and other positions in regard to this one. So in regard to item E, it goes along with item B as well and item D. Do I hear a motion for tabling? Mr. Contreras, seconded by Mrs. Guanajuato Webb. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Thank you very much. Item carries unanimously. We're down to item 16, closed session. Again, the Board of Trustees will address the following sections: 551.071, 551.072, 551.073, 551.074, and 551.076, 551.082, 551.084, 551.087 of the Government Code, Texas Open Meetings Act. If a final vote is required on any matter considered in closed session, it shall be taken upon reconvening in open session. We're now in closed session. Okay, the time is 10:45 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. No action was taken in executive session. There's a couple of items that we had tabled, and so therefore we're going to tackle these items first. Item 14B, consideration to approve employee job descriptions and evaluation forms. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. As we were discussing earlier, we're bringing up 4 job descriptions to recommend for approval: student support specialist, student service coordinator, safety monitor, and district police secretary. Is there any question?
Board
Yeah.
members, you'll find that on page 62.
There was one that I'm not sure we finalized, and that was, there was a reporting structure issue on one of them. We got that squared up?
Yes, sir. We agreed that it would be, the change would be to report, instead of reporting to the chief financial officer, it would report to the director of assessment and accountability.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for, it was an amendment, I believe, a correction to that job description. Okay, could we get the recommendation from administration, please?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the employee job descriptions, evaluation forms, and revised job classification schedule to include an amendment to the student service coordinator to report to the Director of Assessment and Accountability.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia. I will entertain a motion for approval. Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Another item that we tabled is item 14D, consideration to approve the conversion of excess budgeted position for a student support specialist position at Early College High School. This is on page 64. Aide Garcia.
Yes, Mr. Mesa, an additional position that administration would like to convert is for the Early College High School, and this position would be the support specialist, a student support specialist position. And this position is due to increased enrollment at the Early College High School and compliance associated with organizing all the tests, progress report, report cards, and transcript revision. Any questions?
Questions from board members? Hearing none, the recommendation, please.
It is a recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the conversion of the excess budget position for a student support specialist position at Early College High School.
Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion for approval. Mrs. Guanajuato Webb, motion and seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Next item we have is 14E, consideration to approve updates to the 2018-2019 district compensation plans. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mesa, I would like to consider the approval to the following revisions under the 18-19 district compensation plan. We'll go over the red line items. Under the first page, which is the teacher pay scales, there's no changes. The second page, listed under administrative professional pay plans, we're changing the coordinator for custodial and the coordinator operations to 250 days to match the employees that they supervise. We're including the student service coordinator under pay grade 4. There are no changes to pay grade 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 under the administrative pay plan. Later, when we have the the retirement for the chief student services director, we'll bring that one to the board for the director of student service. That would be later in May. Then under the professional pay plan, the only change is under pay grade 3, where we're changing the registrar for Early College High School to be 226 days, because this position also serves as principal secretary for the Early College High School, so we're increasing the days. The next page, under professional pay plan, pay grade 4, we're updating the position for secretary band counselor to secretary fine arts. The change for this is to match the job description that was brought to the board in the summer. We're also including under pay grade 4, the specialist student support. That's also on pay grade 4. Under pay grade 5, we're changing the principal secretary position for Del Rio Middle School and Del Rio Freshman School from 220 days to 226 days so that this could match the high school principal secretary position. The next page, we have pay grade 6, 7, and 8 for the paraprofessional pay plan, and there's no changes done to that pay grades. Next, we have the auxiliary pay plan, and we're changing the title of crossing guard cafeteria monitor to safety monitor. This also moved from 4 hours to 6 hours. We're TASB recommended under pay grade 2 to move the worker textbook safety assistant, to move it to pay grade 3, keep the same number of days for 261. On the bottom of the auxiliary pay plan, we're including a note there that states salary plans are based on 8 hours worked. So where you see the minimum, midpoint, and maximum, that is based on 8 hours worked. Next page, we have teacher stipends. There were no changes. Under the 2018-2019 supplemental stipends, CTE director recommended to change under the robotic program from Del Rio Middle School FTC robotic program to middle school robotic program lead coach, and the stipend amount did not change. He also recommended to change the number of coaches under middle school robotic program assistant coaches to 2, and at San Felipe Memorial Middle School to include 3 stipends there. The next page continues for the 18-19 supplemental stipend, and there's no changes there. Next page, it continues with freshman, middle school, and elementary supplemental stipends, and there's no changes. There's also no changes under the athletic stipend for the next 2 pages. There's no changes under the substitute pay scale. We are adding under the part-time temporary pay the STAR monitors. These are for individuals that help with hallway duty monitoring during testing. And the one under it, it's crossing guard. So that title needs to be changed to safety monitor to match the pay plan that we mentioned earlier. And those are all the changes to the administrative pay plan.
Okay. Any questions from board members? I think a lot of them are just changes to the title. Would you have the read the recommendation, please?
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees approve the updates to the 18-19 district compensation plan and include the safety monitors change under the substitute pay scale.
Thank you very much. I will entertain a motion for approval. Okay, Mr. Smith, seconded by Ms. Gonzalez. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We're now item 16A, discussion of personnel report to include the following: new hires, district vacancies, retirements, resignations, or reassignments. Aide Garcia.
Yes, sir. It is the recommendation of the administration to approve the following new hire: Megan Epstein for Ruben Chavira Elementary, 3rd grade teacher; Maria de Jesus Sigli, social studies teacher at Del Rio Middle School; Ileana Castillo, dance teacher at Del Rio Freshman School.
You have heard the recommendation from administration. Is there a motion for approval? Okay, Mrs. Guanajuato Webb, seconded by Mr. Contreras. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Next item that we have is item A2, discussion of salary adjustments to include the following: service credit, salary matrix adjustment. Aide Garcia.
It is the recommendation of administration that the Board of Trustees approve the salary adjustments as discussed in closed session.
You have heard the recommendation from administration. Any questions? Is there a motion for approval? Mr. Contreras, seconded by Mr. Smith. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. We have now 18A, superintendent's report. Dr. Rios.
Thank you, Board President Mesa, members of the board. The third Monday in November falls during the week of Thanksgiving break. So we will be posting the agenda to have the board meeting, the regular November board meeting for Monday, November 12th. It'll be 1 week early, but we'll definitely have our reports in time. And if you can just please adjust your calendars, unless the board wishes to meet on that Monday, then I don't recommend it.
Mr. Smith?
I don't have an issue with it. I don't, you know, at the end of the day, does it have to be on a Monday, or it could be closer to the end of the week, that same week of the 12th? But I don't have a preference either way. I'm just throwing it out just in case it doesn't work for people.
Correct. It does not have to be on a Monday. If it's okay, Mr. Mesa, we'll just poll the board members to make sure everybody can be here on that Monday, and if it's otherwise, then we'll let you know.
Sure, that'd be fine. I think most of us have already pretty much, said it's okay, but if, we'll poll the board members. That's fine. Okay, there being no other items on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Mr. Contreras, seconded by Mrs. Guanajuato Webb. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your right. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good night, everyone.